Hey everybody, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about John Locke and his contributions to education. So, for starters, in this presentation, we're going to go over three things. The first is who is John Locke? The second will be his views on education, and the third will be how he has influenced the modern world. Our first section is who is John Locke? Most, if not all of you, have probably heard of John Locke. A lot of you may not know a lot of the stuff that actually made him the man he is, however. For starters, John Locke was born in 1632 and he lived until 1704. He was born in Rington, England, and he was the son of a legal clerk. A legal clerk is kind of a fancy term for a lawyer. And he attended Oxford University like most of the famous people from his time period. While at Oxford, he studied medicine and natural philosophy. Natural philosophy is basically science. He ended up getting his undergraduate degree and leaving Oxford in 1667. And after leaving Oxford, he worked kind of random jobs, but one in particular was that he worked for a wealthy family, and a lot of people believed he was the tutor for their daughter. Eventually, he published the essay and the two treaties concerning government after the Glorious Revolution. Now, these are important to note because a lot of countries base their constitutions after John Locke's work, including the United States. Later on in his life, he devoted his life to theology. And theology is kind of like basically the study of man and his devotion to his God. And he ended up dying in 1704. It's my opinion that Locke's upbringing is what helped him shape some of his views on education, which is what we're about to go over next. So a lot of things that people associate with John Locke is his philosophical theories. One for education specifically is the tabula rasa, and this is the idea that children are born with a blank state of mind. And I interpret this as he is saying that we are all born kind of innocent, not really knowing much about the world around us. And it's kind of up to those who are around us and ourselves to kind of shape what we think about society as a whole and how we're supposed to act. And so Locke discusses this in a couple of his works, mainly in some thoughts concerning education. So before we can fully understand this tabula rasa, we have to understand where Locke was basing his purpose off of. And so Locke defines the purpose of an education is why we produce a sound mind and a sound body. This is saying that we have to build ourselves up so we're set for the future. And he also dives further saying the common man required moral, social, and vocational knowledge. And he was saying the Bible and a vocational skill would be the best way for the common man to be set for the future. And so he says a child's mind must be educated before he is instructed, that the true purpose of education is the cultivation of intellect rather than accumulation of facts. This means that our mind basically is taught from day one based on experiences, not basically what type of facts we are taught. It's kind of we'll build stuff with kind of association over time. And so looking at the tabula rasa, you have to understand that if it is a blank state, then we're kind of by ourselves when we start. And it's our job as teachers to mold young minds in order to benefit the individual children as themselves and society as a whole. Now, benefiting society as a whole will make sure that we have good leaders for the future. So we are, going to be in a great place going forward. Now, Locke kind of built these ideas, in my opinion, off of his own personal experiences. And I think it's very easy to realize, As a young kid, I didn't know all the facts that I know now that I've gone through college. I mean, I had no idea honestly, I had no idea who John Locke was when I was a young kid, to be honest with you. I don't think most of us did. And I think that's, further proof that John Locke's tabula rasa is very, very much true and useful in the education. Now we're going to look at how his tabula rasa has influenced the modern world. We're looking at how the tabula rasa has influenced the modern world of education. You have to factor in a few things. For starters, like I said, the tabula rasa is basically that the human starts with a blank state of mind. And so it's up to us, kind of as teachers, to help influence that blank state of mind and kind of mold it into a good leader for the future. And so I look at this kind of in this light that teachers, will start with a small little bitty skill or nugget of information, and we'll build it up to a bigger, grander scale to use that to kind of influence the child's understanding and make them understand the big concept. And so knowing that, I'll look at it as a PE background. I'm a PE teacher. And so in PE, we'll start with a basic skill like throwing or catching. And we'll have little bitty small activities, just throw with your partner, kick the ball to a partner, and then we'll work our way up to a big team type exercise. And so that's another thing with Locke. Locke was a big advocate for social and moral kind of build up skills because he felt like that was kind of more important than necessarily the informational skills that kids will learn because that makes a good leader when you're morally and socially right. And so in PE, we play a lot of team games. You know, a lot of people in PE have moved more kind of toward this team game atmosphere. And one thing in particular is something I was taught during my undergraduate studies, which is a sports ed unit. And a sports ed unit is basically you're going to start with a small skill like throwing and catching, like I've said, and then you'll work your way up to playing a big like game or tournament. And so I've always like one game in particular I did was called cone ball. And cone ball, you know, you have a little tiny ball on top of a tall cone, and the kids have to work their way down the field making smart passes to the teammate. And once they get to a certain area, they can throw the ball, a bigger ball, at the small ball and knock it off and get a point. And so I look at this as kind of it's a team building exercise, and it's no stranger that there are a lot of studies out there that prove that team building exercises are good for the social and moral upbringing of children and just adults in general because it teaches us how to work with each other. But I went a little bit step farther, and I looked up, you know, an article on how PE is important in today's society and why people think it's important. And in particular, you know, this study was kind of a questionnaire and it asked people, you know, why they consider PE important. And two of the main things that people chose for their reasoning is, of course, number one is going to be the health benefits. And then number two is going to be the social benefits, so they get to work with a team. And so I think that kind of proves that tabula rasa is still important in the modern world of education because it shows that with team building exercises, we're getting the moral and social kind of stuff that Locke wanted us to have. And it proves that it's important because it teaches us how to work with one another. Hopefully this study has been kind of interesting to you guys, and hopefully you learned a little bit about John Locke that you may not have known today. Thank you.